this life was all I ever wanted.
I'm not leaving. Not yet.
I was hoping you'd say that.
We gotta hit the streets, make some money.
People like us must destroy people like him. Buckle up.
Get Showtime free at Showtime.com.
Jon Jones continues to antagonize Anthony Smith over how Smith handled the home invasion that took place. So the question here becomes, what does he hope to get out of it? I'll go first on this one if I may, BC. Look, on one level, rivals, people in the same division, former competitors, however you want to describe the relationship between Smith and Jones, going after each other, there's nothing particularly insidious about that by itself. It happens all the time in MMA. And in a vacuum, no big deal. And even saying things you'd be like, that's a little over the line, which I thought he did, saying, hey, if there was, you should get a gun or a mace, Anthony, because if the intruder was somebody like me, he'd have his way with you all night. As if to say, intruders are the best light heavyweights of all time. I mean, Anthony Smith beat that guy within an inch of his life and probably could have done worse. He probably showed a degree of mercy, to be perfectly honest with you, with the guy. And again, in this really weird and unusual and frankly awful situation. So while it seems a little gross that rivals would go after each other, particularly for a sensitive topic like this, to be honest, in and of itself, I don't see any real, I'm not going to say issue, but it's not unusual. The thing that is unusual for me, BC, is the following. It's that we're dealing with a situation where Jon has more recently been in the arms of law enforcement for having a somewhat disturbing incident, as we all know, sitting on the road in a car. Again, these are all alleged, but there was body cam footage. Alleged to be driving, while intoxicated. Alleged to have a firearms charge, and all of this is not great by itself. But then when you realize the antagonism of Smith is happening afterwards, I get that probably maybe what Jon is trying to do, because we're all just mind reading here to a degree, is deflecting from that. But in the immediate need to deflect, it just doesn't feel like, and I'm watching this from afar, BC, it doesn't feel like Jon really internalized that experience in any kind of way that I think some of us probably had hoped. My reaction when the news about Jon broke was that, this guy, I would like to see him get some help to address these issues. And I mentioned he hasn't lost his wealth and he hasn't lost his health and he is still the champion. Like, the time right now is to get in there, and maybe those things are happening behind the scene. Again, I'll say it again, I am speculating, but it just seems to me that someone who was really absorbing the gravity of that experience, I don't know that they'd be engaging in behavior like this. They'd be much more focused internally on themselves, and it feels like they're just whistling past that experience right away to get right back on the horse of what they were doing before. It gives me not great feelings, BC.
I mean, look, you're being incredibly polite and sober even in your analysis of this. I don't know if it's some type of weird thing because he tried to send you to hell that time. But look, the real deal here is that he's way off. And by the way, shout out to everyone who took issue. I don't know if it was last week's show or the week before when I'm like, hey, UFC, strip the guy of the title already. Send that message that the legal system doesn't seem to be doing. A lot of people are like, BC, what are you, crazy? It's just a DUI. How many other people in other sports, did that happen to? Yeah, they get the rightful slap on the wrist, but you want to pull them out of their job. Hey, guys, he shot off a firearm while intoxicated, while driving in the middle of a town during a quarantine, and said he was trying to track down homeless people and talk. I mean, like, it was incredibly bizarre. Then you package that with his past and prior history. I don't see how anybody can defend these actions. Rightfully so, when this news came out with Jon originally, we're like, look, let's protect the man. Let's get him the help that he needs and stop, putting the ball back in his hands and say, go out there and fight. But his reaction here is so out of bounds to Anthony Smith here. Hey, Jon Jones, you should be sending Anthony Smith a birthday card every year for not taking an easy DQ win when you hit him with that illegal blow during that fight, in a fight that you dominated. The only thing is you weren't able to finish him, which is fine. Smith showed a hell of a chin. Smith could have backdoored you there and got himself a title rematch and got himself a title reign because of that loophole rule, because of a foul Jon committed. Why would he go out of his way to attack Anthony Smith when Smith isn't even at the top of the rankings right now in line for a title shot? And it mixes in with what we saw from Jon post-arrest. We saw the initial public statement that sort of said, look, I got issues, I got to deal with them. And then a couple days later, Jon's back on Twitter sort of clowning with fans, making light of his entire situation as if it never happened. That shows you from a distance, without being on the inside, that here's a guy who's not only not taking it seriously, but why would you poke the bear in Anthony Smith in this situation? I guess it would be a little bit more understandable if it was him doing that to like a DC, where you're like, look, they're always going to hate each other. It is what it is. This isn't even a guy that for the moment is on your radar. And, it's pretty insensitive for a guy that just fought off an attacker with his kids, wife, and mother-in-law in the house in the middle of the night, that you sort of go there. And I'm not softening up and saying fighters can't trade trash talk. Trash talk, I love it. The only time I got soft on that was when I felt like Conor was pushing so far with the religious talk that some people on Khabib's team might actually take a real shot at him, if you know what I mean, because they were going past that level. Short of that, I'm in on trash talk and I love it. But the time is not now. And Jon, you're really exposing yourself for just not understanding the gravity of this situation. And maybe that's because no one has pushed you to a rock bottom yet where you have to make the necessary changes. But Luke, I'm surprised you were that polite, even though you really said what I said, just in a sober tone.
Yeah, but here's the thing. People say it's polite.
On? What bone does this man have to stand on?
BC, people say it's polite, but it's not. I'm not trying to do Jon favors exactly. I'm just trying to say, yelling at the dude, talking softly also, I suppose. I mean, I'm not in a position to like counsel the guy. All I can really do is observe from afar and just say, like, how the hell is it possible a situation like this, for the third time where you have a vehicular issue, let's put it mildly, and at least two of them, alleged, because we'll have to see how no, he pled guilty, so it's not even alleged anymore. Sorry. And so at least two of the three, and you could argue all three, involved some kind of substance abuse issues. It's like, dude, if that has happened in your life across now the second decade of your adulthood, right, the 20s and now your 30s, and the first order of business is, aside from the statement, to then go after a rival, as you indicated, who went through a traumatic situation. Like, I'd be happy to have Anthony Smith in my house if something like that happened. I'd be, Anthony, take it away, my guy. You got it. I wouldn't worry. I'd sleep very soundly knowing Anthony Smith was in my house protecting himself and my family if that ever came to it, some kind of situation. So it's like, that's your first order of business. Meanwhile, this has happened. Like, dude, that was a friend of mine, absent antagonizing anyone else in the workplace. I'd be profoundly concerned about them. You add on this in the quick, short order, and it's like, I mean, I get that you don't want to stop living your life. No one is saying you couldn't stay in shape or, talk to people or, keep that sharp competitive edge. Okay, fine. But an antagonistic edge over a human trauma after you already experienced your own personal trauma, it just it's bizarre. It just doesn't add up. And I can sit here and condemn him all day and do the old Skip Bayless thing and tell him he's this and tell him he's that.
Dude, I suppose that makes Phil Mushnick, Luke.
Yeah, I could be Phil Mushnick and just be straight up racist. I could do all that stuff. I don't know that really is my position. I don't know it solves the problem. All I hear him here to say is, I am alarmed at the incongruity of it all, given what just happened to him. And by the way, I'll pitch it back to you on this, BC. You indicate he's not on his rivalry list. He was going back and forth with Jon because Jon wanted to fist him. And he was going back with Dominic. I have less of an issue with that because they were just talking about it competitively. It's the weirdness of the Anthony Smith thing about a human trauma that I just found beyond the pale. Yeah,
it's just bad taste. Like I said, there's no leg or bone to stand on. Before we close, is you in my ear, Jay? Is that you?
Yeah, it's Jay.
Oh, all right. Jay, award-winning documentarian Jay, has got a lot of bad things to say about the Bulls' last dance. We'll get to that later. Luke, do you have any comment did you watch the extended Jon Jones police cam video from the police's point of view where John's phone rang in the middle of it and it looked like a booty call? I know this isn't your area. I just wanted to give you the floor.
I did not.
Way to bring the mood down, Campbell. Yeah, we were all thinking it, though, Luke. And that's sort of my role to put that out there, okay?
Real quickly, just last thing on this. I'll pitch it back to you. Do you like that he is turning his attention to Blachowicz versus Reyes? Given that Reyes said UFC talked to him, they said they want to run it back.
I'm not against it from the standpoint is like the knee jerk is we just talked about Jon Jones and now you can pile on and be like, and he's not even going after Dom Reyes. He's going after Blachowicz, which in theory looks to be certainly an easier fight. Although obviously shout out to Blachowicz's knockout ability. Here's the deal though. Dom Reyes, I thought he won that fight, but I don't think that decision was overly egregious. I don't think it was a robbery. I don't think it was the kind where you're like, oh man, he got screwed. You got to run this back. Similar to maybe to Lyoto Machida Shogun Part 1, right? In this case, Dom Reyes is a rising potential star, but he doesn't have a lot in the bank from demanding this. There isn't a lot of precedence where you have a close decision where the contender, the younger guy, underestablished, automatically gets the next title shot. No, he kind of has to go through one more fight, and then you can build to it. I think Blachowicz is at a point where he's won too many in a row. It's time. He gets his shot. And what this ultimately does, Luke, is it keeps Jon Jones at light heavyweight longer, whether that's for good or bad, depending on your opinion on that. I've wanted Jon to go up to heavyweight forever. I thought he's basically cleaned out this division 3 times, or 2.5 times at the very least to this point. This kind of gives him the room to hang around longer. If he can beat Jan Blachowicz, then you set up to a Dom Reyes matchup that would probably mean more marketing-wise, if you do it 2 fights from now rather than next. I'm not really here to say it's got to be Dom next. Look, he fought a great fight. Judges thought he lost. It is what it is.
This life was all I ever wanted.
I'm not leaving. Not yet.
I was hoping you'd say that.
We gotta hit the streets, make some money.
People like us must destroy people like him. Buckle up.
Get Showtime free at Showtime.com.